on your left. These players will be given the green light here in just a moment, and we will be underway. We'll begin things with a Goblin Guide. Johnson's going to fall down to 18. Inspiring Vantage to land, which Collins is revealing that he is splashing white, as burn decks oftentimes do.
Yep, Boros Charm plus Lightning Helix and sideboard cards. Nothing out of the ordinary here. 4 Sunbaked Canyons to go along with 4 Inspiring Advantage. This build playing 20 lands. Sometimes you see 19 with the Midnight Grim Lavamancer. I think with all the Lava Dart, Gut Shot, Red and 6, it's just kind of slow considerations. I like not playing a Lavamancer at this point.
There'll be a Blood Crypt untapped here from the Bloodstained Mire for Chris Johnson. Faithless Looting time now. So Johnson will draw 2 and be discarding 2 cards here in just a moment.
Really good sign here for Mullen that it's not a blocker. I mean, with Johnson already at 15, implied 13 with the next guide hit. And something that I think is good for Burn, for this matchup compared to traditional Dredge, no Creeping Chill.
Yeah, I think that's a big sign. Also, I mean, this is the kind of game right now where we're at where a turn 2 Eidolon could actually just be lights out. It's not like they can get it off the battlefield, and Chris Johnson doesn't really have a lot going.
Yeah.
You know? So it would probably deal 4 at least?
Yeah, and Eidolon is often not that good in the matchup because they operate out of their graveyard so efficiently. But there are draws where they're a little slow out of the gates and they need to cast multiple spells early to kind of piece something together. And then your Eidolon is powerful in those spots.
Arid Mesa is the land after combat. Riftbolt's going to go on to suspend there for Collins. And we're going to head back over to Chris Johnson. Chris, at the very least, I believe, is going to be falling down to 10. It could get worse, depending on what lands he has in his hand, as he discarded 2 Grave Crawlers to the Faithless Loot. That'll be Insolent Neonate. There's a Blackcleave Cliffs. And it looks like Chris is just going to pass the turn back. Collins is going to search up a basic mountain off the Arid Mesa. Bolcha. Bolcha real good. So that should bring Johnson down to 10, and this should bring him down to 7. Okay. I mean, he's not looking too tough so far.
And, yep, I mean, Mullen with Boros Charm in hand, so yeah.
Oh, talk to me with that Searing Blaze. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Searing Blaze is going to play here. Even if you sack the Neonate in response, you still get your 3 damage because Searing Blaze has multiple targets. And then the Boros Charm presumably finishes us off the game next turn.
Neonate will discard the Stomping Ground, but as you mentioned, 2 targets. Landfall, of course. Here's a Goblin Guide hit, trigger, Gravecrawler, and Lightning Axe is going to take care of that. But Johnson is exactly 4, and as you mentioned, Boros Charm is already in hand. So.
Yep. Johnson, I assume, has no life gain, no Thoughtseize, so he would just have to win in combat this coming turn. Seems unlikely.
Ain't happening. Even 4 Vengevines. Ain't happening. That's a Stitcher Supplier. A Hogak, a Swamp, and a Blackcleave Cliffs are heading to the graveyard. There's Gravecrawler. Going to Convoke in a Hogak. And Collins is going to show him a nice, beautiful Boros Charm here in just a moment as he slides it to the forefront of his hand. Oh, so for ya. Collins Mullen going to win game number 1 here over Chris Johnson. Burn up a game very quickly over Hogak. Is it better than we think?
Maybe in this matchup. I mean, my experience playing this matchup was I just got so overpowered that even if some of the fundamentals of the matchup are in your favor, it's, the card quality, the speed with which they kill you. But maybe not. Mullen 5-0. Won that game very easily, kind of how you would draw it up. They don't block. They don't get to the battlefield that fast. They don't gain life. They don't interact with your hand. So you have a Goblin Guide and some burn spells. That's going to be good enough to beat a lot of their hands.
Well, it certainly was that particular game for Collins. As we take a look at the sideboards here for both players, we're going to start with Rotting Rigosaur. 3 copies of that there for Chris Johnson. I got 2 Plague Engineers, 2 Leyline of the Void, 2 Force of Vigor, 2 Fatal Push, 2 Collective Brutality, a Nature's Claim, and an Assassin's Trophy.
So you want a little bit of the hedging against a potential Leyline type of cards, and the Assassin's Trophy, the Nature's Claim can target Eidolon and can also tag that sort of thing. I think the Rotting Rigosaur is really the star here.
Yeah.
Even if your graveyard's cut off, it still works. It's huge. Ends the game very quickly. The Fatal Pushes and the Collective Brutalities are solid here as well.
For Collins Mullen, he's got 4 Smashes Smithereens, 3 Tormod's Crypts, 3 Path to Exiles, 2 Tecatli Honor Guards, and 2 Boom Deflecting Palms.
I imagine you just want to do an 8-for-8 swap here. The 3 Tormod's Crypts, the 3 Paths, and the 2 Deflecting Palms. Interaction for the graveyard, and cards that are good against Vengevine and Hogak in Path to Exile, and those particularly Deflecting Palm.
Well, those are the options there for both players. Game number 2 about to be underway here in just a moment, but you see those chairs that those players are sitting in? We're sitting in them too. You could be as well from our friends over at Carnox. They got your back. Save 10% at checkout when you visit carnox.com/SCG. It'll take care of you right on that exit when you are leaving the website with your purchase of maybe one of these beautiful gaming chairs. Carnox, we've got your back. Once again, carnox.com/SCG. Collins Mullen, very quickly up a game, 5-0 here in Columbus, Ohio. His biggest win, of course, was a handful of years ago in Cincinnati with Humans. He played 14 opens last year. He's got 8 open. He had 3 open top 8s last year. He's got 8 open top 8s all time with that win in Cincinnati with Humans in Modern, putting that deck on the map. 2 invitational top 8s as well for the 24-year-old from Durham, North Carolina. Also a member of Team Lotus Box who enjoys rock climbing and bouldering. Which, okay. You ever do any rock climbing or bouldering?
Gone rock climbing 1 or 2 times in my life.
Seems hard.
It's not really my thing.
Seems hard and dangerous.
No, you're usually like strapped into a harness. You're not just like free range, just climbing rocks, unless you're typically very experienced.
It's like what I see in movies. People just free range rock climbing.
It's not really a thing that people commonly do.
Okay.
When people describe themselves as a rock climber, that's usually not what they're talking about.
All right. Good to know. Good to know. It's not for me. I'll say that much. But you know what? To each their own. Do the things that make you happy.
Other sports I prefer playing a lot more.
What's the difference between rock climbing and bouldering?
I don't know.
Other than a boulder is definitely bigger than a rock.
I would ask Collins.
All right.
In spite of moving to Colorado a couple of years ago, I've not picked up the outdoorsy sports.
You live near Boulder.
Yes.
Which implies, I bet there's bouldering there, if I had to guess.
Probably. I don't know. I've only been up to Boulder a handful of times.
Heard it's nice.
It is nice.
Yeah.
But it's, I don't know.
Have you been to Aspen?
I've driven through it. I've stopped to get gas there, but I've never, like, stayed there.
Is it like, was it north of Denver?
West.
West of Denver. How far?
Hour and a half, 2 hours.
All right. I only want to go there solely because of Dumb and Dumber.
That was the first movie that I ever walked out on. I was 12.
You are a curmudgeon.
And I walked out of the theater.
How?
But not the last movie I walked out. What do you mean?
It's so good.
I was like, this is so stupid. I'm leaving.
Of course it's stupid. You're unbelievable. At 12?
11 or 12? Whatever. I can find out.
Had to go read the newspaper, huh? I'm sure the newspaper was probably more stimulating for your interests.
The Star Ledger? Yeah.
Yeah. Both these players taking a look at their openers. Collins is going to send it back.
Yeah, I just left. Just walked out.
You do
The
you.
Hillsborough Cinema. I don't know if it's there anymore. but I remember the movie theater. Just walked to Target.
You know what? You probably just wanted to read something. I got something for you to read right here. StarCityGames.com newsletter. Every week. I'll let you take care of this. Tell the people what they can read.
Well, it's your source for Magic the Gathering news curated by Cedric Phillips. Included in the newsletter, highlights from some of SCG's best articles. You can find upcoming SCG Tour dates and locations. Are you looking for an invitational qualifier or game night near you? You can find it in the newsletter. And best of all, signing up is free over at go.starcitygames.com/newsletter.
Perfect.
These
Well
are
done.
my early movie experiences
All
that
right.
I occasionally get made fun of for.
All right, here we go.
Walked out of Dumb and Dumber,
Okay.
fell asleep during The Matrix.
Nice. That second one is really, that Matrix is just, that's not anything.
And
that
it's
would
not
impress
even
you.
it's not even like I have an issue intrinsically with, whatever you want to call it, dumb comedy. Some of my favorite movies that I've seen in the theater are the Jackass movies. Love it.
Okay, those
absolutely love
All right,
Jackass.
I would not put you on that. That's fair. That's fair.
My childhood had enough Jackass adjacent moments to it that there's a certain connection to it.
Gotcha.
And they weren't that far away from where I grew up. It's part of it too.
But Dumb and Dumber just couldn't handle.
Couldn't handle it. Walked out.
Chris Johnson going to sacrifice a Verdant Catacomb, get a Blood Crypt. He's down to 17. I fell asleep during The Force Awakens. Is that the Star Wars movie with
I wouldn't know.
with Jar Jar Binks? Whichever that one. Out cold. I've never The Phantom Menace. Haven't seen a Star Wars since. Never will see another one.
Is that the one with General Grievous?
I'm not sure.
A really well-named villain.
Apparently that's Revenge of the Sith, we've been informed.
Colonel Bad Guy.
Yeah.
The main villain.
Couple of Vengevines are headed to the graveyard, probably coming back next turn, unless Collins has a Tormod's Crypt. General Bad Guy. Goblin Guy, talk to me. Bloodstained Mire. Going to bring Johnson down to 15.
Well, I mean, here's the test here. If Johnson can get back the 2 Vengevines this turn, probably just going to be too much material on the battlefield too fast for Mullen to be able to keep up. If Mullen gets one more turn, he might be okay.
Stitcher Supplier. Let's turn 3 cards over. Couple of lands and a Bloodghast. Note he did that before playing a land for the turn. Leads me to believe he probably has one. And he does. It's a Blackleaf Cliffs. Enter the battlefield untapped. Bloodghast will join the fray. And now, it's another creature. Carrion Feeder, and a pretty darn good one. That means Vengevines are headed on the way back from the graveyard to the battlefield. And an attack for 8.
Yeah, this is going to be too much, too fast, too much blocking.
And this is the thing that you were afraid of in this matchup.
Just these draws, you have no recourse. I guess post-board you have your Tormod's Crypts, but game 1, they just do this not a trivial amount of the time. You lose every game where this happens.
Yeah. After sideboard, we have seen in the past burn decks move towards Ensnaring Bridge, but I think one of the things that would be an issue here is they might just be too fast for you, where Ensnaring Bridge, you might have too many cards in your hand.
It's too fast. You can't get your hand empty. They have some amount of Assassin Trophy, Nature Claim kind of stuff, so it's not even like it's good all the time, even if you got there. No, I think the way that you got to do it is, I think what we might see Mullen be able to do in this match is you just win the die roll, and games 1 and 3 are too fast.
Okay. That's the plan.
And that's not,
Hey, and that can be a plan.
Yeah, that's fine.
Gravecrawler going to come down. Sacrifice that, I believe. And then recast it looks like potentially. Yep. Now there's a Carrion Feeder. And now here come the Bozos.
All of this with the goal of presenting lethal this turn, forcing some action out of Mullen.
Carrion Feeder, of course, can grow by sacrificing the 2 creatures that are untapped, which is another Carrion Feeder and a Gravecrawler, which can make it a 4-power creature by itself. And we know it can get even larger than that. So, forcing lethal indeed. Goblin Guide's thinking about getting in front of the carrion feeder because it can just grow so much. Note that Collins Mullen does have at least one copy of Lightning Helix in hand at this stage. And I'm not sure how good Lightning Helix is going to be in this spot, even at targeting creatures, because you can sacrifice them to the feeder to stop your opponent from being able to gain life.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, the path here is you want to Helix Johnson to keep yourself alive and then cobble together enough lava spikes to win the game, but Johnson's life total is just way too high. And this is where, like, Deflecting Palm can be valuable, too. It can be kind of another Lightning Helix in terms of shrinking the amount of damage that you need to do and allowing you to survive combat as well.
Mm-hmm.
But Mullins' hand isn't even very good. There's 2 more lands in there.
Here is a Helix. He's going to go upstairs with that. No sense in targeting the creature. So Johnson's going to fall down to 12. Collins is going to go up to 14. Then he's going to take 4, 8, 9, 10. It looks like 11 points of damage. Gravecaller will be sacrificed before damage here to turn the feeder into a 3-3. I think we might just see Collins take one more draw step here before waving the flag, as it were. Tormod's Crypt is a little late. And I wouldn't show that one. There you go. Chris Johnson going to win game number 2 here over Collins Mullen. Hogak Byrne getting ready for game number 3.
Over the years, I've noticed Mullen's pretty good at, concealing information in games that are close to hopeless in spots like that. It's something he's pretty mindful of and something that I see a lot of other players not pay enough attention to.
Sure. Well, these players are going to... I don't think they're going to go back to the drawing board. It doesn't look like it. It looks like Chris is going to take a look. Not sure if Collins will or not. I imagine he's prepared himself for this matchup so he doesn't have to think about re-sideboarding the difference between the play and the draw. So Chris might change some things up. Collins looks good to go. And we'll watch game number 3 unfold here in just a moment. But before we do that, we got to talk about the StarCityGames.com YouTube page, where you can watch Versus Live with Todd Anderson, Ross Merriam, and Corey Baumeister, the newest member, who won SCG Philadelphia last weekend with Shaheen Sarani and Peter Ingram. You got Commander Versus with Stephen Green, Jeremy Knoll, Jonathan Suarez, and Justin Parnell. A little flashback action with myself, Brad Nelson, Todd Anderson, and many others. Best of SCG Tour moments, and a whole bunch more. Subscribe today at youtube.com/StarCityGames. Become one of over 150,000 subscribers. And thanks to each and every single one of you for watching the content on that page. Burn on the play. I can buy into burn on the play.
That's how you draw it up, That game, that hand that Johnson had, even if Mullen was on the play, it would be pretty hard for him to win. And your sideboard cards here should be very effective if you draw them.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Tormod's Crypt does certainly have a shelf life. It's not good always.
Nope.
You got to draw it at the right time.
You really want to have a creature with your Tormod's Crypt. You want to have that recurring source of damage while you keep them off balance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're all on lava spikes, the Tormod's Crypt might buy you some time, but, is that going to be fast enough when you're down a card?
Well, that's the question, right? Both these players are going to take a look at their opening hands. Getting ready for game number 3 of round number 6. Again, keep in mind, we're taking your questions at the end of the round, everybody. At Cedric A. Phillips on Twitter. Send them to me. Make sure you use that hashtag SCGCOL so I can filter them out that way. And then we'll be taking questions and answering them, as both players are going to send it back. Not happy with what they found, so London Mulligan will be engaged here in a moment. They got to find something that they're happy with. And while they do that, we're going to hear from our friends over at Ultimate Guard right now. Alrighty, folks. Looks like these players are happy with their hands. They'll be given the green light here. Let's watch game number 3 unfold. The Goblin Guide to start. Bloodghast is the reveal. Pardon me. Johnson is down to 18. That's an ideal start.
Looks like Mullen has Tormod's Crypt, Boros Charm, and Sunbay Canyon. And mulliganing is typically really bad for burn as a critical mass deck. This is the kind of matchup where you can afford to mulligan pretty aggressively for one of your 1-drops because they don't play that much removal or blockers. Your creatures are so good, especially when you're on the play, that Mullen can afford to be pretty aggressive looking for a 1-drop, especially something backed up with Tormod's Crypt.
Polluted Delta will be sacrificed to find a Blood Crypt. There's the battlefield untapped, so that's going to bring Johnson down to 15. Every point counts when you're playing burn. And there's a Faithless Looting.
And so this Goblin Guide is going to be worth at least 4.
4's pretty good. I'd play red, deal 4. Bloodghasts are going to the graveyard. Now, do you want to crypt those away along with the Faithless Looting? That's a decision that Collins will have to think about as we head back his way for, yes, only his second turn of the game. He'll draw. Picked up another copy of Boros Charm.
Great draw.
Yep. So down to 13. We can call Johnson at a hypothetical 5 right now.
Yep. And I mean, that's not accounting for any more fetches or duels.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, I like Tormod's Crypting here.
Just get rid of those. Obviously, I think you should play it now. That part I think is easy.
Yeah, something threatening could happen.
Yep. And he just okay. He's not going to waste any time. He's going to crypt away those. That means that's going to hold Hogak even longer.
Right. I mean,
anything else?
And you know, it's just so. Without those Bloodghasts enabling various things, it's just so hard for Johnson to be able to block this turn. Though he does have a Decision Supplier, one way to do it.
Collective Brutality, Satyr, Wayfinder, and a Bloodstained Mire go to the graveyard. Finish your thought.
And so the upside there of making it so much harder for Johnson to block there, I think is worth it. Also, if your hand's going to be forced if he plays a land, which you already know is going to happen because you reveal the Bloodstained Mire, then why give him the opportunity to do anything?
Carrion Feeder. I'm just going to pass the turn back. So Carrion Feeder can't block, but Citrus Supplier can. There's the Boros Charm. Going to knock Johnson down to 8. Mullen will be untapping. In a moment, he will be drawing. And I'm curious to see as what he draws. A Lightning Bolt.
So now if Johnson fetches or plays a Ravnica Dual land on tap, that is lethal.
Mm-hmm. There's your attack with Goblin Guide. No real surprise there. Trigger, top card, Carrion Feeder. Okay. There's your block with the Citrus Supplier. I think we're going to see Carrion Feeder eat that. We will. There will be a trigger. 3 cards will get milled. Carrion Feeder is 1. Assassin Trophy is 2. Faithless Looting is 3. Carrion Feeder is now a 2/2.
And Mullen putting pressure on Johnson to be able to block next turn.
Didn't get a great look at the draw, but I don't think there was any life gain in there.
It's going to be tough for Johnson to both beat the board and beat the hand, especially with Mullen having a Sunbay Canyon for multiple looks and another burn spell next turn so Johnson survive. Even something like Collective Brutality would not be very good from this spot.
For Chris Johnson, it'll be a Gravecrawler. Another creature that can't block. It's one of this deck's weaknesses. That's another Gravecrawler. And is there a big follow-up? Not anything really that I see at the moment. That It's Verdant Catacombs that you have to be a little gun-shy about sacrificing when you're at 8.
Well, now Mullen can just go for it because that Verdant Catacomb effectively can't find a land here with Mullen having 7 points in his hand, and Johnson can't block the Goblin Guide. So we would need something really weird to be able to get out of this one.
Bang, bang. Collins, Mullen going to win this game and match over Chris Johnson 2-1. Byrne will take care of Hogak, and for Collins Mullen, Byrne was obviously his choice, and it looks like a pretty darn good one, sitting at 6-0.